The Taco Bell's decade menu is back, and this time it's focused on that crazy time period that we called Y2K. If you or a loved one experienced emotional distress due to slow internet 25 years ago, Taco Bell believes you're entitled to a delicious escape. With Taco Bell's decades Y2K menu, you get five faves like the cool ranch Doritos Locos Taco, caramel apple empanada, chili cheese burrito, 7-layer burrito, or double decker taco, all for $3 or less. You already suffered dial up. Don't wait any longer. Experience Taco Bell's Decades Y2K menu now. Also, don't forget to add on a $7 Buffs box with four Taco Bell classics and a collectible CU Player Cup featuring Jordan Seaton, Juju Lewis, Draylon Miller, or Quentin Gibson. And we want to shout out Taco Bell because every time CU scores a touchdown this year, Taco Bell will help support CU athletics with a $1,000 donation to the Golden Buffaloes Scholarship Fund. Live Moss at Taco Bell. All right, let's get into this here. William, how are you doing, buddy?
Just chuckling at did you have slow internet 25 years ago? You kids today have no idea. We didn't have no internet. We didn't even have books when I was a kid. Talking about your slow internet. I was on the HBO when it first came out. Not HBO, AOL when it first came out. And
Yeah. Yeah, my sister and I shared a line when I was in high school, and I created a website called Gary Payton Online, the Seattle Supersonics stellar point guard, and actually got published in Beckett magazine and
wow.
actually like a Chinese magazine, and I've still got the proof there. That was when I was like 14, 15, before you could get your driver's license, and my sister and I would go to war over that internet.
Wow. Well, yep. Now we got everything on a phone that we can carry around with us.
Double decker taco, though, man. I'm going to get one of those later today. That's pretty legit. That's on the Y2K menu. I got a Buffs box this past week, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit. You can do that. You can throw in chicken on to whatever taco you order. You can throw some different sauce in there. So it was kind of fun to play with that a little bit this past week. We got to get you some more Taco Bell there, William.
Yeah, my belly says maybe I don't. I went someplace yesterday, but I don't want to talk about the competition. So
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. We love our Taco Bell here.
Yeah, right.
So let's get into this therapy session here. We've been through this before, and it's never easy, especially when, as Coach Prime put it, this was they were the more talented football team last
we
night, right?
we yeah.
Yeah, yes.
We were the more talented team, but they were the better team, and that's where I've been saying for years, man, coaching matters, and we don't get good coaching. That being said, though, there are moments when we are a very good team. That first quarter, we were a very good team. What I don't understand is why we can't keep it up. Other teams adjust to us, but we don't adjust to them. So that's still on the sidelines as far as I'm concerned. And then there's just a lot to cover in this particular game. I don't understand why. I think it's 2 games in a row now. Salter takes 20-yard sacks. Does the kid not learn? Do the coaches not coach him in practice? Does he not understand the game? I just don't get it. So I don't know what direction you want to go, but I think this team could be very good. There's moments when it shows, but they got to get some of these things fixed. It's I think they could beat anybody in this conference when they're on their game, but then they just make mistakes. And this one was so discouraging, I guess, or frustrating, I guess, because of the just continued number of mistakes. We gave them their first touchdown with 2 pass interference penalties. We had I think that long run by Caden Salter that got brought back on a holding might have busted the game open for us. So we just make these mistakes. And I think the other thing
by the way, before you go into your next point, I counted 6 BYU holds that were more egregious than what Omari Miller had on that play.
Oh yeah. And once, since you bring that up, I'll bring up that the two clowns doing the TV commentary as I rewatched today, they might as well have had BYU shirts on, for Christ's sakes. I don't know. I guess it's just annoying when you're watching your team and it's frustrating like that. But I don't think I think the officiating on the whole was fairly good. I don't know. There wasn't really anything. I think they they called some stuff on BYU there. But we just can't make those mistakes.
Yeah. CU secondary has to figure out how to play the ball better. I mean, that's been an issue for 5 weeks now.
Yeah. And the Omari and Miller hold, I mean, it was a hold, man. I don't know what to tell you. And it affected the run, so it's a fair call, but he just got all. But as the commentator said on TV, he doesn't have to do that. He just has to shield the damn guy, And these are just little football things. You don't got to dominate the damn dude. You just got to get in the way. That being said, that makes me think of Xavier Hill. Had another dominant outing. I guess I'm kind of ping ponging all over the place here. I'm not sure.
No, O-line played really well. I thought last night.
Yeah, that day. And you know what? So I'm trying to get back to what I was. I don't know. I had notes here, but a lot of things we did do and we didn't do, but we just kill ourselves both with our play calling and with our mistakes. I don't know. I think the talent is there. I thought the defense was much better. They gave up some mistakes along the way, some places, but at the end of the day, I don't know, man. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. I think you give up 24 points to a Big 12 team, you expect to win that one. Don't you think most times?
The defense played well enough for them to win. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but the other side of that is, and I just said to somebody on our board, I just wrote down what he had said, and that we don't have anybody. I'm gonna come back to something we've talked about in previous weeks, but 5 games in now, isn't it? We still have there's no him on this team. There's no guy on either side of the ball that's that guy, that steps up and can just take over and make the plays. There's no Shedeur Sanders or Travis Hunter, but there's no Cameron Silman Craig or Nakai Hill on defense. There's no Jimmy Horn Jr. or LaJohntay West or Will Shepherd on offense. There's nobody that's that guy that you can go to. And 5 games in to the season, we should be identifying those guys already. And I think that's kind of what Coach Prime was talking about yesterday. I think he said something about guys are something about they're not up to the moment or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he means. There's just nobody that's like
Tawfiq Bayard is up to the moment. Arden Walker is up to the moment. Yeah, but to your point, the list of guys is pretty short.
Yeah, and I'll give an example of it. Like when I was coaching Douglas County High School, and we were watching the film. We ended up we lost only 1 game, and after that game, we were doing a film session. And guys were jacking around and laughing around, and I asked the head coach to stop the projector and turn the lights on. And I said, I don't know what the hell you guys are jacking around and joking around about. When it came down to 3rd down at the end of that game, and coach had everybody on the offense on the sidelines, and he said, "Who wants the ball?" Only damn dude that stood up and said he wanted a damn ball was the dude who was hurt. You got to have dudes on the team not looking at each other, going, "Which one of us is going to do it?" You don't go into the phone booth to put the cape on. You just have it on. And you just do it. And there's just nobody on this team. I think Draylon Miller gave a audition for the part last night, But they
That was
stopped.
fun to watch. That was really that was a highlight for me last night.
Yeah, and I think at moments over his career, Omarion Miller, he shows up as that guy for a couple of minutes, but he doesn't show up every week. And I think the closest we got to that on this team is those big hogs on the offensive line, and they can't do it alone, man.
Yeah. Good stuff. We got a message here from Travis that said the energy at Folsom was awesome. Shout out to the student section, because they kind of, even though Coach Prime didn't really put them on notice, they still kind of got the message that you got to stick through this one till the end. And I thought the drone show actually was a cool new addition. I didn't know I needed to see Ralphie surfing in lights in my life, but it wasn't mind blowing, but it was something new to throw in there at halftime, which was kind of cool. And and Ralphie 7 continues to do her
Buffalo,
thing.
Man, I love that Buffalo. Oh my God, they even did I rewatched the game after I taped it, and they did a little special on her, and she's just a little sports car.
She is. She's about 700 pounds. She's gonna almost double in size before all is said and done. And I pray for those handlers when she gets to full mass, because that's gonna be a trip.
You could tell how fast they were going because the one dude's hair was straight back.
Yeah, those were the highlights from last night. Unfortunately, didn't get the win. Let's go to appreciate some of our sponsors here, William, and then we're going to bring in our good guy, Sean Niehoff. The Taco Bell's decade menu is back, and this time it's focused on that crazy time period that we called Y2K. If you or a loved one experienced emotional distress due to slow internet 25 years ago, Taco Bell believes you're entitled to a delicious escape. With Taco Bell's decades Y2K menu, you get 5 faves, like the cool ranch Doritos Locos Taco, caramel apple empanada, chili cheese burrito, 7-layer burrito, or double-decker taco, all for $3 or less. You already suffer. Is your business growing but not quite ready for a full-time CFO? Macaulay Capital offers fractional CFO services for companies doing more than $3 million in annual revenue. You get expert financial leadership without the full cost. Learn more about how you can improve your business's profitability and cash management at MacaulayCapital.com. If you know Boulder, you know the Hungry Toad. We've been serving this town since 1991, long before the lines on Pearl Street. Just north of campus, we're your local British pub with proper fish and chips, quality burgers, a scratch kitchen, real English cask ale, and no tourist fluff. We support CU football, women's soccer, and the loyal fans who keep it local. The Hungry Toad, Boulder-born, Buffs proud. All right, let's bring him in. Sean Niehoff, how you doing, bud?
Good.
Late night last night.
It was. You got to love those 8:30 kickoffs, right?
You don't have to love them.
and hopefully we're done, but we'll see.
Yeah. I was telling somebody last night, I don't want to complain about this, because it's like, people got much more difficult things they're dealing with life. But I will now spend the next 3 days trying to get my sleep schedule back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know about you guys.
It's not a one-day issue. It definitely drags on into the work week. So
yeah. So, well, what were your initial thoughts as you were making that walk from Balch Fieldhouse back to your car?
Initially I just thought it was a great opportunity that wasn't capitalized, on. I think there were a lot of positive things to take out of the game, but as Prime said in his post game, and I think as everybody who's watched this team has said, that this team doesn't really have anybody on either side of the ball that really steps up to the moment in crunch time, and makes a play on either side of the ball. And that's kind of what's missing. And I think that yesterday's game was really what I expected out of this team going into the season. Is I didn't think there were going to be a lot of games like Houston, but I thought it was going to be a season with a lot of games like Georgia Tech game, a lot of games like yesterday, where you're in one possession, one score games. There's not going to be a lot that separates the two teams. You guys mentioned earlier that, I think talent-wise, you probably had more talent on the field, but it was evident that that BYU's a program that's been led by the same guy for 10 years and has a culture and identity and really good staff that knows how to game plan and knows how to scheme and knows how to make adjustments, and their players are relatively disciplined. I think last night may be the most undisciplined we've seen a BYU team in quite a while. So the opportunity was there, and the plays weren't made, and so now welcome to Suicide Watch Sunday, which I guess is the college equivalent of the I forget what they call it now, but the Monday thing in the NFL.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Well, yeah. There's another word for it, but so everybody's we've got overreactions, across the board with a lot of different things, but especially rewatching the film. I've watched it twice now. I've watched the TV broadcast and then also the Skycam, all except for the fourth quarter on the Skycam. I ran out of time before we were jumping on here, and tomorrow I'll take a look at the all 22 and have some better insights into what really some of the specifics were. But I think, as is usually the case after rewatching it, you don't necessarily feel as bad as you did watching it live. You can kind of see how and why some things happened. And I was, there were some things to take away and be impressed with, and some ongoing lingering concerns that just seem to not be, that aren't being addressed.
Well, I thought I was writing down my notes again as I was watching it again this afternoon. And just like with Georgia Tech, BYU has an identity. They know who they are. They know what they do. They believe in what they do. And they're not going to crap their pants when they're down 14-0 in the first quarter. I thought we came out with a fantastic game plan on both sides of the ball, and then we stopped doing it on offense and went to something different. But we don't have that killer instinct. We don't have that, you're up by 14. We get the ball back. We stop them. We get the ball back. We got a chance to bust this thing open, and we just don't do it. We go to that third drive. We get down to their 30, man. We're killing them between the tackles, and then we get tricky on a reverse, and then Salter tries to scramble and loses 3 yards, and the damn thing's over. And I go back and look at the stat sheet again today, and we got Micah Welch and Draylon Miller averaging. Welch is averaging 6.1 a carry, and Miller's averaging 6.5 a carry. Welch's got 11 carries, and Miller's got 8.
Right.
Who's the dumb jackass that's calling the plays, man? 6 yards a carry, and you're not feeding these guys the ball until somebody stops them? What the hell?
Yep. And if you take out the bad Salter sack, the 22-yarder, his numbers are incredible, as well as you add in the 45-yarder that gets called back on the Draylon Miller thing, and
right.
And I've heard both of your guys' side of it. What I'm going to say is that Draylon didn't turn the guy, and when the guy did turn, it was he did release him, or the guy broke free when he turned him. He didn't pull him, or Amarian. Yeah, sorry, Amarian.
Okay.
That's just a call that's not made. 9 times out of 10, it's not made. So it's it's bad luck, and like you said, Adam, too, there were some other calls, especially on BYU's last scoring drive, were on the edges. There were just some egregious holds and takedowns that that you let go, and that happens in football. This game was not on the refs at all. It's just frustrating when you see those sort of things happen, But yeah, I mean, I've got a list of notes too. I think Pat Shurmur, found some things early in the game, and I think the team found some things, but like you said, they went away from them. I'm not sure why. For big periods of the game, they stopped employing the 20 personnel, the Draylon and Mike in the backfield.
Yeah.
I think Draylon's found a home. Draylon, we've talked about that he's really struggled this season, and he just has not developed the skill set to be a true receiver, a slot receiver, but he's got, a lot of talent and a lot of athletic ability. And I think that this game really highlighted, how you can use him much more effectively, and still get him involved in the passing game out of the backfield. So,
well, his rushing touchdown where he just trucked the damn linebacker, man. I ain't seen that from a CU running back in a long damn time.
Yeah. And I think he'll get better. He's only going to get better because he's, what's he had, 1 week of coaching. Yeah. So I know that, they were pointing out, Marshall Falk was pointing out some things to him even in game, and coaching him up on the video board, the little bit, the tablet. So I think as he gets settled into that type of role, I think that, that speaks some good things, but our receivers still struggle at a lot of things. There was not much separation throughout most of the night last night. There were a few plays that were wide open that were missed, or, that weren't seen, or, and in the All-22 will show that a little bit better on exactly why. I don't know if it was Salter not pulling the trigger, or if it was just that the initial reads, were not where the guy was running open, which a lot of times is the case. If you've got your eyes to one side of the field and somebody on the backside's running open, half the time it's because your eyes have pulled the safety, which give that guy, open space. But yeah, there's enough problems to go around. I think one of the biggest is that we're 2 years into this Rob Livingston defense, and there still has not been any either any scheme or any execution of scheme that has actually designated assignments for players to be the quarterback man or the pitch man in any sort of option scenario, which is frustrating. And that just, they ate us up on that last night.
But some of Bachmeier's biggest runs, though, were just on scrambles where he found it. I mean, that one where he bounced off about 4 guys. I mean, that's just a dude having a game,
Well, yeah, and that was his only. He did that. He bounced off guys a couple of times, but a couple of times those were on quarterback powers where the front defended it well. They just, they either didn't get hands on him, and he bounced off, the mess and was able to squeeze out and find some space or whatever. But there was so much stuff on the edges with the option. I mean, they did a great job at taking away LJ Martin for the entire game, but there was never anybody there to control the other part of the duo. So.
Outside of Jeremiah Brown, the linebackers are largely non-existent.
Yeah. Yeah. After having a big game last week, they were pretty quiet in this one. And again, which makes you wonder how much of it are things that they're seeing and not seeing, how much of it is what's being schemed up. There, and BYU did a lot of things creatively against some defensive rules, I guess, that CU has that ended up setting them up in outmanned situations. They did some things with motion that, and shifts that created odd man scenarios, and the defense didn't adjust, and we got outflanked. So yeah, there's a lot of things to work on. I was really surprised that Livingston never brought any pressure on a freshman quarterback, and and just let him pretty much, make his standard reads. I mean, at this point, he's not really reading. They've got it designed to where he's got a one option passer pretty much in most plays, but but they still never made him feel flustered really in the pocket. Too much man defense at the wrong times. I still don't know why we're playing solely man on the goal line where you're in condensed space, and the easiest thing for an offense to do is run pick and rub routes to get people open. And you saw that happen, more than once down there. So
I think that, I think that for the first time in a long time, I thought both of our lines beat the other team's lines. I wouldn't go so far as I would say on offense, we at times dominated them. I thought our defensive line got penetration, but then there was nobody to clean it up when the guy ran, so we got a lot of tackles in the backfield and disrupted their run game because, a lot of people thought, oh, they're just going to run at will. They really didn't. And I thought that was the defensive tackles and the defensive ends. I thought Arden Walker in particular had a pretty good game. And those two freshman ends are going to be something, but and particularly McPherson is stout on the run, much more stout on the run than I expected him to be, especially when they were trying to block him with tackles and he was holding the edge. So that was a good thing. I thought our second touchdown drive, which was all run game, we just mauled them up front, and then we stopped doing it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, this was the best game I think the offensive line has played in.
Yeah,
definitely in the last 3 years.
And Sean, there wasn't even, it was just straight zone. I didn't even see counter. I didn't see trap. I didn't see a split zone. I just saw straight freaking zone, man.
Yep, and a lot of the issues that they were having in terms of just technique individual player technique issues, all seem to be cleaned up. They're
getting better. They're getting better.
And Prime mentioned they had a really good week of practice, and that he saw that come out, and I could see that as well. That there were some things that they needed to work on, not necessarily as a unit, but maybe more individually. And they were very impressive.
Right, and I thought all three of the interior guys did a great job getting up to the second level, and on one of those long runs, Xavier Hill, all 340 pounds of him, was keeping up with I think it might have been Salter, might have been Miller, but those guys are big and they get to the second level and they put people out.
Right.
So there were, I think, 5 plays in this game that I felt, had they gone the other direction, would have changed the course of this football game. And I know that when we do regular podcasts, or you're a writer, you try to stay away from that cliche of it really is a player or two here or there, because coaches say that all the time. So you want to kind of buck that. But it really was Teion Parks almost had an INT in the third quarter. I mean, that was –
I was jumping. I was jumping. I was like, oh, my God, he got it. I don't know how the hell that even happened.
We talked about the Omarion Miller holding call, which is debatable. Martavius French turns his head around on that. Yeah. He's not getting the PI.
My God.
Right.
Keaton Wade almost took that missed snap to the house. I mean, that was another one that was like, just a split second later, he's grabbing that thing in the air and he's gone. And then we mentioned the 3rd and 17, and you could throw the sack in there too.
Well, I don't understand the play call in the first place, because it's 3rd and 3 if I remember correctly. It was right after the hold, and the only good thing about that hold is that it was downfield, so it didn't take us back. It was 3rd and 3. Run the damn ball, man. Why are you doing a drop back pass?
100%. I don't understand. That's my bigger issue is the play call on that. And that's, I mean, it was you can't do that if you're the quarterback. I think it's funny last night and today to see all the revisionist history and all the looking at the past 2 years with gold tinted glasses. I go back and look, and out of Shadour's 52 sacks, almost 10% of them were for more than 15 yards. I mean, the guy was notorious at doing the same thing, at rolling out, trying to extend plays, scrambling, giving ground, and giving up those big losses because you don't want to give up on a play. And it's so which also tells me that there's something going on, in the coaching of the program that allows that sort of thing to happen. Because it's not a new scenario. It's not a Salter thing that we haven't seen before.
Don't you think the first 2 years that Shador is the coach's son, he pretty much got to do what he wanted to do?
Oh, probably. But I think that, and I think there's a lot of that going on in this program where it's really hard to hold. It's been hard over the last couple of years to hold certain people accountable. And if you can't hold those individuals accountable, how are you going to hold anybody else accountable?
Right. I mean, the other thing that's, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place because my notes are like that. But another thing that sort of stood out to me is that yet another team kills us with the tight end and we can't include a tight end in our offense for love, God, or money.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. That being said, on that second TD drive, Savell Smalls was in there and he was making key blocks. So
Yeah,
I
he
like
was.
this.
He was. I know.
Yeah.
Even on the touchdown run, he made the block that actually made it possible for him to get into the end zone.
Got that linebacker.
I'm curious to get your thoughts on the clock management situation late in the first half, also late in the game. I think late in the game, first half, as Coach Prime said post game, once that was almost picked off, it's like abort mission, get into the locker room, regroup. I thought that was the right call there. But late, I would have taken a timeout before you got to the 2-minute warning. That would have saved some clock.
Got 15.
I would have taken it after that first down, right before the Caden Salter INT, just to kind of calm things down a little bit. And you do have that option if you're driving down the field late in the game to spike the ball, stop the clock. So you got to use those timeouts to keep everybody calm, in my opinion, especially when you don't have Shedeur Sanders behind center. What are your thoughts on just kind of the clock management in both those scenarios?
It's not clear to me entirely that Caden Salter knows how to do that, or is prepared to do that. I mean, that's one of the advantages you have with Ryan Staub, is that he does understand the game and knows those little nuances. Did the clock management? I mean, ultimately, would the clock management have mattered with that interception at the end? It's hard to say, but I don't know. It's hard to argue with what you're saying, but.
Yeah.
That's been an ongoing thing for 3 years now with Coach Prime, and I think it's better than it has been in the previous games, but it's still not great.
Yeah, I don't understand the clock management at the end of halves and games in general, with this staff and exactly what their mindset is on it. Because even at the end of the first half, regardless of what happened when CU got the ball back, when you're sitting at around the 2-minute mark and BYU is already inside the 20 and they're going to score one, whether it's a field goal or they're going to score a touchdown, I probably would have used that opportunity to start taking the timeouts defensively to see if you've got enough time to do something, when you get the ball back. But I agree with you, Adam, on sometimes it's not all about stopping the clock to use those timeouts. Sometimes it's about making sure that your quarterback and your team understands the situation, understands the scenario. Hey, look, it's 3rd and 3. We're at a point in the game where we assume that we've got 2 plays to get this first down. So the only thing we can't do is take a sack, right?
Yeah.
And have that conversation, because whether Caden Salter has that innately or not, ultimately it's the coach's responsibility to make sure that their players are in the best position to execute. So make sure everybody understands what the scenario is, what the situation is, and let's go out. And if this needs to be a throwaway play, it's a throwaway play, and we'll pick it up on 4th down. It's baffling to me.
Yeah, and going, we talk about clock management most often in terms of timeouts and quick snaps and things like that. But it's 1:49 left in the game. We got 95 yards to go. Every single one of us has seen that done, multiple times over the years, right? So I'm sitting there going, right where you want to be. And then our first play is a short route to the right. Our second play is a run for the first. That would make sense. And then we get to the line. The second one is a Salter. I don't know if it was a scramble or a designed run. And then we run that sprint out to the right where we run an interception. The whole damn game, I didn't see them send Sincere Brown deep. I mean, he's 6'5" and he runs faster than he's in the field. Is there not a point in just throwing the ball down there and letting him try to get it?
Well, and I think that speaks to a bigger point, especially offensively. I know it's a little harder to scheme around defensive playmakers, but on the offensive side of the ball, that's one thing that we don't see. No matter how much better, the creativity was and some of the new wrinkles that we saw from Shermer yesterday, is we don't see any schemes to take advantage of individual personnel matchups.
Except Greg Draylon yesterday.
Right. Yeah, they put him in a position, but you also spent 4 weeks
Right.
trying to force feed the ball to him in a scenario that doesn't fit him. So I don't know. It's that's frustrating as well. Yeah, I mean, I would be really frustrated if I was, if I was Sincere Brown and a lot of the receivers. But I think I think that receiver situation is multi-pronged. I don't think that I think there's a coaching issue there in that room, and then I also think that there's a play calling scheming issue.
Yeah, I thought this was the first game where I didn't come out the other end thinking, this is on Shermer with his play calling. I don't think the play calling is good. I think that he should have stayed with what he had working, and he just has this baffling tendency to go away from what's working. Like I over or something. I don't know. But this was not the game. Again, especially after rewatching it, my first thought at the end of the game was, Shermer sucks again. But then I rewatched it again. I was like, it wasn't that bad, frankly, his play calling. But what I'm sick and tired of hearing, is the kids aren't executing. That's a coaching thing, man. They execute the way you teach them to execute. And if it happens, if it's 1 week, maybe they just had an off day. But if it's week after week, that's what you're teaching them to do when you need to reevaluate.
That's what coaching is getting the information that you have in your head relayed onto the players and have them execute it. That, it's very easy to accumulate that knowledge. You could spend your next year in the library studying football and be an expert, but if you can't relay that on to the players to have them execute it, then it's not great.
It goes back to, one of the things that we've mentioned before, and it's sort of been a cliche in football that sometimes the great players aren't great coaches because it came naturally to them. They, I couldn't play worth a damn. I run like a snowdrift, and so I have to be able to teach it and I had to be able to understand the damn thing to make any impact on the field at all, right? So I could teach it to guys because most of them, even the stiffs, are better athletes than I am, but so I could teach it to them and show them how to do it. Some of these guys that were great players, they just think, well, why can't you do what I did?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if that's the issue with Deion Sanders, though, because he's kind of a different cat in that sense. Like, he definitely loves guys up and tries to find the best in them to coach them up. It's tough. They're 2-3, 0-2 in conference play, and
well, let me ask you this along those lines, because this thought's been ping ponging in my head all morning. He repeatedly holds the players accountable and says they got to do this, they got to do that. I have yet to hear him hold the staff accountable.
I think he did. I think he did that last night, as far as he's going to, because he doesn't really call out the individual players. That's rare. But last night he did talk about how the players were. I forget what the words he said, but the moment was too big for some of them, and they need to step up. But then he said, "That's on us. That's on me, and that's on the staff as coaches." When asked, when asked what his thoughts about, on the defense were, he said he wasn't happy, and next question, and I think that I got the sense, at least, that came down to more than just player execution. That he's, there are things he's seeing going on out there that he's not, necessarily thrilled with.
I've seen. Let me say this real quick, William. I've seen Coach Prime hold himself accountable more than any head coach that I've seen come through Boulder. And it does come with criticism towards, as he says, he'll cry to us before he lies to us. And there's stuff he's not going to tell us, but he's upfront about that. And I don't think that's the issue within this football team. I think the coaching staff is being held very accountable, but Coach Prime does not want to really. I mean, you're 5 games into the season. You're not going to start throwing people under the bus at this point.
Right.
Don't you think that, and this is kind of changing gears a little bit, but like those first 2 offensive and defensive series of the game, those were not flukes. We could be that team.
Right.
We could be that team. If we could figure out how to do that I sort of vaguely remember this from last year, him saying if we could do that for the whole game, if we could put together a complete game, we could beat that team, and we could beat anybody in this conference. We could still be a good team but they got to fix some stuff, man.
Yeah. And you did see some schematic things in both of those that you didn't see for a lot of the rest of the game. I mean, some of it came back offensively at times. Defensively, I'm not sure if some of it came back, but in those first two series, there were a lot of calls that were checked into cover two, which gave the defense, made it easier for the defense to play the run and to keep those plays from hitting off tackle and around the end, being in that. And then as we got further into the game, you just saw a lot more cover one, a lot more man that was not being checked into, cover two or cover three, where you've got those extra flat players. And the offense is running the ball, right where we've got defenders running down the field with their backs turned to the play. So it's, I don't know what changed. And, if they felt like, okay, now we're in a good situation and we can run what we want to run, we can go back to our base stuff. But they do seem to just kind of fall out of what's working or when the other team makes some adjustments to what they've done, the counter adjustments are where they struggle as well.
It looked to me like last night, Sean, I wonder if you saw this too, that it seemed like we played a lot more wide 7 and wide 9 with hand on the ground with defensive ends.
We did, but there was, and I think that was what I saw, very dramatically, is that we went to that, and that's when we started seeing they started running a lot of this, like the speed option stuff. And so they went out and they were attacking the wide end, and we didn't have anybody that was we didn't have designated assignments. He wasn't the designated quarterback player, and we had somebody else that was there to take the pitch man, partially because we were in man. And so you end up with the end out there on an island trying to take away both and really taking away neither. And then you've got, Bachmeier turning it up inside of him for 6 yards a pop. It's, which I think was unfair to them, because it's going to make it look to most people like the ends really struggled and had a horrible game.
Well, in reality, if that's how you're going to scheme it, you got to have a linebacker fill that gap.
Right.
This is where we need one of those telestrators when you and I start to nerd out on 7s and 9s, and everybody's going, what the hell are they talking about? Because I could do this all day.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I wanted to throw out some kudos to Joseph Williams, who I think is honestly, at this point, maybe their best receiver.
Most consistent, maybe.
Yeah, I think he's their most well-rounded true receiver. Right. He, and he's still only a sophomore, so there are times when you watch him run routes and he's not really, he's running his post into the opposite safety instead of up the seam. There are some of those things you see that are little coaching nuances, but in general, I think he's their best combination of reliable hands, good routes, and the ability to do some stuff with the ball in his hands. So
the other thing that I saw a lot out there was that it almost seemed like they gave up on the tight ends entirely, because Yaya was out there sometimes in a lineman number, sometimes in a tight end number. When the lineman number, we ran an unbalanced line, which I love an unbalanced line, but it almost seemed like they gave up on the tight ends and just went with Yaya.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Yeah. 4 of 5 CU offensive linemen graded out better than average per Pro Football Focus. Azarian McGill, he's been a warrior. He's not healthy right now.
Yeah,
and he's battling through that.
Yeah, I saw him limping out there for sure.
Yeah.
And he was the only one that didn't grade up there. Xavier Hill again just had a phenomenal game.
Jordan Seaton had a good game as well. Yeah. I don't know if they've figured out right tackle yet. Larry Johnson kind of had up and down game yesterday.
Zy Chrysler had his best game of the season so far, but yeah, I'm still not convinced with Johnson out there at right tackle either.
Yeah, although I think he did have, on my looking at the the all 22 in the behind view, but looking at the overhead sky cam view, I think he had his best game which is probably still, maybe what some of these other guys were doing in just an average, game. I think he is the that is the position that's kind of the I don't know, the least effective on the offensive line.
Well, and it makes you. I spent the whole game watching Isaiah Jota and just wanting to kick myself. Like, wish we'd have kept that dude. But that was, and to change gears slightly, I watched some football yesterday, and I watched Chase Soul have a great game. I watched Jota have a great game. I watched Jordan Tyson have a great game. Jared Lichtenhan is still in the NFL. We could.
You're forgetting somebody in there. Golden Head.
A kicker? What? Oh well, yeah. Okay, I'm not going to go there. Why you got? Why don't you just go with Dan Lanning? You want
to? I gotta poke you once a show, William. Come on.
I don't know. The Colton Hood thing doesn't. That just doesn't rile me so much. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
it riles me up. It riles me up more than you.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm on the opposite end. Oh well, I'm on the opposite end because I think I'm the one doing the riling on that. That to me, I think might be the single biggest loss in the last 2 years. In my opinion. Yeah.
Well, especially how it's played out so far with the cornerback.
Right, exactly. Which is exactly why, because I stumped all last year that I thought he was a better player than DJ McKinney was, and I thought that he should be the guy that's out there, and he just was not the favored athlete, and DJ McKinney is who DJ McKinney is, and I think he's been overhyped, and the staff continues to promote. They think he's a surefire NFL player, first day type guy, and I don't think his play has ever reflected that.
I mean, I turned to Oliver Hayes yesterday and I said, I think we might see DJ McKinney here again next year.
Yeah.
There was a point in that game where, and I hope I'm wrong.
Well, and I think part of that goes back to, how many of these guys are we seeing improve from their sophomore to junior to senior seasons? How many of them are actually getting better and becoming more, technically proficient at their craft? And I look at it and I don't know that I can name any of them. Maybe on the offensive line this year, you've seen individuals improve, which tells you that they're getting some coaching out of that three-headed, offensive line group. But and I think last year you could see that happen with the ends and to some extent with the whole defensive line, but linebackers, defensive backs, wide receivers, you haven't really seen it with, and whether or not
Marshall Faulk this year though. No.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to say. Whether or not he turns out to be,
they're not handing off to him.
Yeah, whether or not he turns out to be a great coach, I think you do see a difference in what he's doing in that room and the knowledge that he's imparting versus what we saw before. So yeah, I do give that credence as well.
All right, what else should we talk about here? I don't think BYU is ever going to be a CU rival. They got Utah, and Kalani Sitake is somebody that Coach Prime really respects, and there were a lot of talented recruits on campus. I hope you guys are tuning in to BuffStampede.com to get the latest there. Top recruit in the 2027 class on campus. 7 guys that were committed to that are currently committed to other programs in the 26 class, and DeMontre Timms, a verbal commit for the Buffs in the 26 class, was on campus yesterday. 13.5-point underdogs going out to TCU next week. It's going to be a 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time kick. I don't know, guys. I would give like a limb for a day game at this point.
At least you don't
or maybe just a part of the finger, just cut off like half my pinky and give me the rest of these games during the day during this season.
You spent 2.5 days in a blizzard driving there to get to it.
I'm dedicated, William. I am.
It just saying last year in, what was it, El Paso or
Texas Tech, 26 hours. 26 hours. Yeah.
Would you give a surgically repaired Achilles?
I'm good.
I just want to sleep. Is that too much to ask for? But no, Sean, you're going to head out there to cover that game with me. I'm looking forward to that. William, what are your thoughts going out into this game? Are you kind of in the mindset of CU as a potential bowl team? Do you have more optimism or less, or more pessimism about that?
Well, I think we're still a bowl team. I think there's you look at our schedule that we're making, and we got the hardest part. I don't buy the whole TCU thing. I don't think they're that great, but
you never do. You never do.
Well, and was I right? We went out. Did I think we went? I was the only one saying we were going to beat them that.
All right.
Well, we did.
Okay.
I don't think TCU. They're not any kind of a program. Like you look at BYU and you look at Georgia Tech, and they have a program. They have a thing that they do, right? And they're tough and they're hard nosed, and they're going to hit you in the mouth. That Bachmeier kid. Say what you want, but that kid's tough, man. And those dudes, they. One thing about that game the other night last night was that we laid hits on them and they laid hits on us, man, and it was hard hitting, but it wasn't dirty or snappy or any of that kind of junk, and so I can respect the BYU or Georgia Tech, but I don't know, TCU. It's hard for me to take them seriously. They're not a serious program to me, so we'll see. What are they now? They beat North Carolina, big deal. Abilene Christian, SMU, lost to Arizona State. So I don't know. I don't think they're that great. And I think we're a team that can beat anybody in this conference. If we're playing like we did in the first quarter, we can lose to everybody, if we played like we did at other times.
Yeah. I think TCU is a bad matchup for where CU sits personnel wise right now. Just because it's, they really thrive in that mid-range passing game, and what's Josh Hoover? Is that his name? The quarterback for TCU? But yeah, that guy's just ridiculously accurate, inside of, under 15 yards. And so, and that's just an area where CU has struggled and where we've got some personnel issues. So if Vickers is back, that helps a little bit just in terms of another body. But that really scares me. It's not the deep balls. It's not those shots. It's the, continuing to pick up 12, 15, 18-yard chunks and move the ball down the field, and CU really struggles.
Wouldn't you say though that this defense this year is sort of following in the footsteps of last year and getting better as the season goes on?
I think in some respect, yes. In some respect, it's been a slow build. In other respects, I don't see any improvement at all from week one. But again, that comes down to positionality and I think some of it's just personnel, based. I think that there are some areas that got missed on in building the roster this year, and it's and now you're trying to find ways to overcome that scheme around it, or just mix and match, to try to figure out what individual is the best fit inside of a certain game for what the opponent's doing.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's obvious the loss of Nakai Hill-Green and Travis Hunter, but then and Colton Hood we mentioned, but we still don't have anybody that's taken over leadership on that defense like
Cam Sumlin-Craig.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's just nobody.
Yeah, I have a feeling that maybe not. I don't know if it'll happen during the course of this year, but I have a feeling that going into next year that guy is going to be Tawfiq Bayard.
Yeah. And based on play alone, I don't know about his personality, but Alexander McPherson, he seems to play with he plays, with reckless abandon out there 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Oh, full effort, and not, he's not always doing the right thing, but he's doing the wrong thing 100 miles an hour.
And sometimes it works out in his favor.
Yeah.
And this is the challenge of the transfer portal era. I think, was it Sean or William that mentioned that you bring in all these new guys and they're trying to make plays first and then lead later. And it's tough. BYU is a different program in that sense. And so you can be more talented, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily show itself in terms of the continuity that you're going to perform with out there on the field. And so it's still, though, a much better place than Colorado was in back in 2022. So I kind of go back to that. It's I know folks don't want to hear that a day after a tough loss, but I don't pour dirt on Coach Prime at this point. Like, he's gonna have a resurgence here at Colorado.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had 9 wins last year. We're only in year 3, quite frankly. We're still sort of ahead of the game. We're still recruiting well. We've got some pieces back for next year, and I'm not ready to be done with this year yet. I still think this year could go a variety of directions.
Yeah, I agree. Unless, I think there is a danger with these next 2 matchups. That, if you come out of this set of 3 games and all of a sudden you're 2-5, now you're more than halfway through your season, and the odds of figuring out how to get those 6 wins and everything else, that starts to play on you, mentally and emotionally. And so you run the risk of kind of having some let down instead of some continued growth through the season. So I do think this is, I think this week's a really bad matchup, is a bad matchup in certain areas, but I think it's a really, really important game because I think you're on the cusp of whether you get your team to the point of not only improving, but believing that they're, that they can continue to be competitive, or you turn the corner the other way. And everybody, including the players, are looking forward to next year.
I think, Coach Prime keeps talking about he wants toughness. Well, you know what? Line it up and run between the tackles, man. I don't think TCU is the team that can stand up and stop that. BYU can. I don't think TCU can. So let's see you do it then, man. Stop handing off to the running backs 19 times a game, and let's let these dudes run. Hit people in the mouth. You want to be tough, be tough.
So a lot of people on the board, Adam, sorry, I'm going to throw out another topic, and you're probably trying to get off of here, but so there's a lot of people that are now, they said, okay, I've seen enough. Salter can't win a game. He's a head case. He's not the guy to close it out. So let's put him on the bench. It's a wasted experiment. Let's just play Juju the rest of the year, or he's going to walk. He's going to leave. What are our thoughts on is it time to hand the keys to the freshman and work on developing him, or
not yet? You got to give Caden the opportunity the next 2 weeks, and then I think you reassess it after that point. Yeah. If it's more of what we saw last night versus what we saw previously, then yeah, you got to start to build for the future. But if you got bowl eligibility, you got some goals in mind. I know folks are upset with Caden Salter, and then he had a rough game last night. He was so decisive early in the game, and just once they got off script, it was like he just kind of lost that confidence. And
but what outside of 2 plays, that interception and that stupid sack, and there was a couple of bad reads on the RPOs, but did he really have that bad of a game? I mean, he's a high risk, high loss kind of a player,
Yeah.
But he did something, you get that run without, you get to take away the hold on that one run, and his night last night looks a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boom or bust is tough, man. Like Bear Bachmeier was just an engineer out there as a true freshman.
Yeah.
Just kind of engineering these drives, and you would expect a fifth-year senior to be able to not be so boomer bust.
But that's
I guess my point.
But that's what Sean said, is that they give him one read. They don't give him a whole bunch of things. They give him a system that he can play in. You know, you throw Juju into our system, and you know he's not going to look any better than Salter.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I don't think there really is a system. And you know, my only concern is that I'm not sure, especially with the way the situation with Byron Leftwich has played out. I'm not sure what kind of coaching the quarterbacks are really getting on a week-to-week basis. And, for a young, quarterback that still needs to develop, and I know they all have their own guys, but you're looking for a program to provide some development and some growth for you too, which doesn't just mean throwing them out into games and to the wolves, right? So I think that's an area that absolutely has to be one of the first areas addressed in the offseason, is that because Pat Shurmur's not a quarterback coach. He never has been. He's been an offensive coordinator, but he was always an O-line guy. He was a run game coordinator before he was an offensive line, before he was an offensive coordinator and then a head coach. He's not a quarterback developer. He's never really been in that role. So I think you need that in this program, especially with a freshman quarterback.
Yeah. Which is his background makes it even more mystifying to me, his play calling. You'd think he'd lean into the run game with the running back, get Simeon Price back and him and Draylon Miller and Michael Welch, and let's just pound it behind these big dudes.
All right, guys, I think we rolled through all our notes. If you guys have anything left, please let me know before we sign off.
No, I think I got through pretty much everything. I didn't say the word that Sean always tries to get me to say.
Well, it was a double whammy last night, William, because Oregon winning in overtime definitely didn't make me feel any better.
Yeah.
James Franklin's legacy is not looking so great there at Penn State right now. Like every big game, they seem to lose every time.
Yeah.
So.
It's an interesting season so far.
No Dan Lanning ran. Okay. We'll sign off.
No. You know what? Since we're not playing them, I don't care about them too much.
Okay.
Like I don't want to give them space in my head.
He said we just keep chipping away. We're gonna hit an artery at some point. I'm like every time I see a quote or his face, I think of you, William.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, the Technicolor clowns. They can do it. They're not going to win a national championship in my lifetime. So,
all right, that's a good way to end this show on some levity here. Hopefully next week I'm going to be flying back. Sean, you're flying back too. When are you coming back next Sunday?
I think my flight's pretty early in the morning on Sunday.
Okay. Mine's like mid-afternoon. So if we can go 5, I don't know what your schedule is, William. Next week we can touch base with each other and schedule that. But appreciate everybody out there for tuning in, and I feel like these are good therapy sessions. What do you guys think?
I think the boss is watching. I got to ask her what's going to be next Saturday.
Hey, check in with her. Yeah, do that.
No, 100%. This is good therapy, talking through things, and I think the prep to do this, when we all go back and rewatch the games and get a different, fresh perspective on it. I think that helps the whole process too. And it's, I think it's definitely, there's definitely not a whole lot to be rah-rah about it, but I think it's way too early for the panic that seems to be setting in across the Buff fandom.
Well, that seems to be the way of our people, though. I don't know. It's like
I think that, and I don't think it's exclusive to the Buffs. I think that's pretty standard fare for college football.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's have a better show next Sunday when we reconvene. I appreciate you guys, and as always, I appreciate everybody out there.
And
go ahead.
What happened to the young kid today? He had to sleep in or something.
No, he's watching the NFL. He's covering Buffs in the NFL. Young William. So
All right.
Let's let young William do his thing, right? You know, somebody's got to be keeping their eye on the NFL when I got to stay up till 7 in the morning.
But you know what? Us old guys can still make fun of him when he can watch it later. You know, he's got to know that you just because you're not here doesn't mean you're going to get not picked on.
No, I'm his boss. I'm on him. Come on, young Will. Where's that story? No, I'm not really not like that, but no, he's doing a good job. I enjoy his contributions to the show and kind of brings a different perspective to everything. And he said he's going to be on next week, so look for young Will next week.
Well, I appreciate all the people that show up live for us to hear us blabber back and forth. But
Colorado fan says nap. Yeah, I got to push through. I got to get to 9 p.m. because I want to sleep through tonight. And then, Sean, what's your plan sleep wise tonight? After last night?
Yeah, I slept in later than I had planned on this morning. I slept right through my alarm, so I have a feeling that that I'm doing okay now, but tonight's going to be rough because I'm not going to be able to go to sleep, and so I'm probably going to be up tomorrow working off of one of those, 4-hour nights or something, and it's I'll probably catch up to everything about Wednesday.
The struggle is real in Buffland right now.
Yes.
I guess that is the takeaway from today's show. But
we all need better coaching.
Yes, we do. All right. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everybody out there for tuning in. In case you haven't heard, CU Athletics is teaming up with Taco Bell this season, launching the first ever $7 Buffs box, which is available at participating Colorado Taco Bell locations. What's in the Buffs box? A lot of great stuff. You get 4 Taco Bell classics, a cheesy gordita crunch, a beefy 5-layer burrito, a Doritos Locos Tacos, cinnamon twists, and the meal comes with a signature Buffs collectible cup featuring either Julian Juju Lewis, Jordan Seaton, Draylon Miller, or Quentin Gibson. And this isn't just about the food. Every single CU touchdown this year means more than points. Taco Bell will donate $1,000 for every Buffs touchdown to the Golden Buffalo Scholarship Fund. Nothing better than crushing a Buffs box while watching the Buffs light up the scoreboard. Live Moss.